The sky above Westreach City was dark with storm clouds, thunder grumbling low in the distance as cold rain poured over the streets. It soaked the stone paths and the crowd of excited youths gathered in front of the tower's ceremonial plaza. Today was the tower entrance ceremony, a sacred event that marked the beginning of every cultivator's journey. Most were eager, nervous, hopeful. Luo-Chen stood at the very back, silent and still, eyes half-shadowed by the wet strands of his black hair. But inside, he was far from calm. This is the day it all went wrong. He remembered it clearly, too clearly. The stench of blood in the dungeon. The betrayal. His limbs shattered. The cold creeping into his bones. The system that failed to activate in time. And then darkness. But now, he was here again. 17. Unawakened. Weak. Just as he had been, before it all fell apart. I died. And now I'm back. Regression? His heart pounded as realization settled in like ice in his veins. Somehow, fate had thrown him a second chance. No. This isn't fate. This is a bug. The moment the thought crossed his mind, a soft ding echoed in his ears. A flickering screen appeared before his eyes, transparent, unreadable at first, like static across glass. None of the others reacted. They couldn't see it. Then the text stabilized. Initializing. User, Luo Chen. Status, regressed entity detected. System core fragment active. EXP multiplier, 999x, bugged. Error, missing protocols. Proceeding anyway. His breath caught. The broken system, it followed me back. This was the same system that had flickered to life only seconds before his death. A system too damaged to function. A joke of a gift from the heavens. But now, it was here from the beginning. Still broken. Still incomplete. But active. Lightning flashed above. Luo-Chen raised his head slowly, eyes narrowing toward the colossal tower in the distance, the same tower that once consumed him, spat him out, and left him to die. The cheers around him faded into silence as his focus sharpened. I won't play by this world's rules again. He clenched his fist. This time. I'll climb the tower. I'll crush the sect that discarded me. I'll destroy the heroes who let me die. I'll break every one of them, level by level. Another ding. New objective, survive until tower entry. Bonus, first kill equals 5x level bonus, bug. The system seemed to be mutating already. Just like last time. But now he had something no one else had. Memories. Knowledge of the future. And a glitch that could rewrite the rules of reality. Let's see how they handle the trash they threw away. As he turned to walk into the crowd, the rain washed over him like baptism. This was no longer the start of Luo Chen's journey. This was his restart. The tower entrance ceremony was held in the grand square beneath the looming shadow of the sky-piercing tower. Luo Chen stood among hundreds of young cultivators. Each wore bright robes, family sigils, or clan badges. He, by contrast, wore faded gray. No emblem. No prestige. He was alone, but not ignored. Hey, isn't that the Luo clan's failure? Didn't his spirit root break 3 years ago? Why's he even here? Probably to embarrass himself again. The whispers swirled, but Luo Chen didn't react. His mind was elsewhere, focused on the strange window still floating in his vision. System core fragment, stabilized. User, Luo Chen. Cultivation base, none. Spirit root, crippled. Hidden stats, detected, access restricted. EXP multiplier, 999x, bugged. Glitched trait detected, absorption protocol, passive. Note, core memory sync at 14%. Absorption protocol, he murmured. This wasn't in the original version of the system. But then again, in his past life, he barely had a few hours with it before dying. Was it evolving early? Responding to regression? He tapped at the UI mentally. Nothing changed. Most of it was still locked. But the EXP multiplier stood out. 999x. If I can kill even one monster, I might level dozens of times instantly. But he had no cultivation base. He had no weapon. And worst of all, no recognized talent. Which means, the test is coming. At that moment, the elders of Westreach sect arrived. One by one, cultivators were called to the crystal pedestal to awaken their spirit roots. Luo Chen watched as others stepped forward. Some awakened red flames, fire roots. Others, shimmering blues, water roots. Each successful awakening was met with cheers. Power surged around them. Then came his turn. Next, Luo Chen. A hush fell over the crowd. Everyone knew this name. Knew his past. He stepped forward calmly, ignoring the looks of pity and mockery. Placing his hand on the crystal, he channeled what little spiritual awareness he had. The crystal flickered. Then went dark. No light. No color. Nothing. Zero, the elder said coldly. No awakening. Snickers erupted in the crowd. Again? Trash, through and through. Should have stayed home. But Luo Chen wasn't listening. Because in that moment, his system flickered. Hidden stat bonus, regression residue detected. Unique condition met, concealed talent, shadow core, dormant. System note, external scans will always show 0. His eyes widened slightly. So I do have a core. But it's hidden from everyone. A weapon in disguise. Perfect. He stepped back silently as the crowd jeered. But inside, something had begun to stir. And no one, not the crowd, not the elders, not the tower, could see what kind of monster had just been reawakened. Next objective, slay any beast. Reward, 5x instant level boost. And this time, he would not fail. Following the public humiliation of the awakening ceremony, Luo Chen sat alone near the outer walls of Westreach City. Distant cheers and laughter echoed behind him as other disciples celebrated their newly awakened powers. But he didn't need fanfare. He had something more valuable. Shadow core, dormant, invisible to the world. And a system that's broken in all the right ways. The crystal had shown 0. But his system had shown otherwise. Hidden stats. Concealed traits. Regression residue. And more importantly, a way forward. He pulled out the tattered beginner's manual issued to all failed awakeners. It was a bland booklet, barely more than a pamphlet. But buried inside was a detail most would overlook. Those who fail the crystal test may undergo the test of talent in the outskirts. If they survive, the sect considers them usable. A joke for the useless. But for me, it's an opening. The outskirts were dangerous. Wild beasts roamed unchecked, feeding on the spiritual energy that leaked from the tower's influence. For normal youths, it was suicide. But for Luo Chen, active quest, first kill any mutant beast. Reward, 5x instant level boost. EXP multiplier, 999x, confirmed. I just need to kill one. The next morning, he arrived at the outskirts, dense woods just outside the city's protective wards. The air was heavy with damp moss, and low growls echoed in the distance. Most other failed disciples turned back. Luo Chen went in deeper. He didn't have a sword. He hadn't even been issued a proper robe. But he remembered. 3 years from now, this part of the forest becomes a secondary training ground. Which means... He crouched low, eyes scanning. And there it was, a mutated Shadowfang fox, barely tier 1. Its fur shimmered, and it moved like smoke between the trees. To the others, it was too fast. But not to Luo Chen. Because he'd died to this beast in his first life. Now, he remembered everything. The way it lunged. The way it always attacked from the left after circling. You killed me once. Now it's my turn. As the fox leapt, he dodged cleanly, grabbing a jagged rock from the ground and jamming it straight into its throat. The fox writhed. Blood sprayed. Then it fell limp. 1 kill. His system pulsed violently. Beast slain, Shadowfawn fox, mutant. EXPX 999 applied. Level up. LV.1, LV.2, LV.3, LV.4, LV.5, LV.6. Passive skill acquired, Shadow Dash, fragmented. Trait absorbed, Night Vision, lesser. Warning, leveling speed exceeds normal parameters. His entire body shuddered. Energy poured into him like a floodgate had burst open. Muscles strengthened. Awareness sharpened. The world became slower, clearer. This is power. He stood tall, breathing steady. I don't need their approval. I don't need their tests. I have my own path now. Somewhere, deep in the tower, an ancient pulse echoed faintly as if it, too, had noticed the ripple. Luo Chen turned and walked back toward the city, leaving the fox's corpse behind. The boy who had died had returned. But now, he was evolving. News of Luo Chen entering the outskirts had spread like wildfire among the outer disciples. He went into the wild zone without even a wooden sword? Idiots looking to die a second time. Let the trash throw his life away. No one expected him to return. So when he stepped through the southern gate at sunset, clothes torn, blood spattered, and ice cold, every mocking voice went silent. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. His presence alone was different now. He walked straighter. His steps were lighter. Faster. More focused. Like a blade freshly sharpened. But inside, Luo Chen was still processing what had just happened. Level 6. New skill, Shadow Dash, LV.1, a burst movement ability using dark energy. Passive trait, Night Vision, lesser. System alert, EXP throttling imminent, correction forces notified. The system's growing, but something's watching. The word correction sent a chill through him. Something, or someone, had noticed the abnormality. But that was a problem for later. Right now, he had to hide his growth. Play the role of a failure a little longer. That night, under cover of darkness, Luo Chen snuck into the outer training yard. No one was there, most of the real disciples trained with sect instructors or in spirit zones. He stood before a wooden training dummy, fists clenched. Let's test this body. In a flash, he moved. Shadow Dash, activated. He vanished, then reappeared behind the dummy, a gust of wind trailing him. Crack! His fist drove through the wood like a hammer, splintering it in one blow. He wasn't even using cultivation techniques yet. Just pure, raw stats. I need to level up again. I need more skills. I need to evolve faster than the tower can react. He left before dawn, unseen, leaving broken dummies behind. The next morning, an elder walked past the yard and froze. Who did this? The wood was shattered clean through. But no disciple had reported anything. His eyes narrowed. Back in his small room, Luo Chen sat cross-legged, studying his interface. His system window flickered with faint static, but the numbers were clear. Shadow Core, 5% awakened. Level 6, Power Equivalent, Mid-Stage Chi Foundation. EXP Multiplier, still active. Warning, system traits may begin to leak into external aura. I need to stay quiet. At least until the dungeon breach happens. That would be his next real opportunity. The breach that came too early in his past life, the one that no one was prepared for. Except him. Now. He glanced at the calendar. 2 days. 2 days until chaos. 2 days until the next death wave. And this time, Luo Chen would be ready. The atmosphere in Westreach sect had subtly shifted. On the surface, nothing had changed. The elders trained promising disciples. The weaker ones mopped floors or swept the gardens. life went on. But a quiet rumor had begun to circulate. You heard about the wooden dummies, right? Cracked clean through. Someone said they saw Luo Chen limping out of the wild zone, alone. The trash? Impossible. He was different. Like, colder. Luo Chen heard the whispers, but he paid them no mind. He had no time for gossip. Because the dungeon breach was coming. And he had only 2 days left to prepare. That morning, Luo Chen sat beneath a quiet pavilion near the herb garden, pretending to meditate like the other outer disciples. In truth, his eyes were closed because he was inside the system's UI, studying his stats. User, Luo Chen. Level, 6. EXP, 74% to LV.7. Core, Shadow, Dormant, Awakening Progress, 5%. Skills, Shadow Dash, LV.1. Traits, Night Vision, Lesser, Absorption Protocol, Passive, Unknown Type. Status, Stable, Concealed. Correction Alert, Mild, Monitoring Active. That correction alert unnerved him. Some force, was observing. Calculating. The world itself doesn't like glitches. Still, the benefits were undeniable. His senses were sharper. His body lighter. At this rate, he could fight early-stage cultivators barehanded. He just needed to stay unnoticed a bit longer. No breakthroughs in public. No sudden power reveals. Just quiet, clean progress. But the world didn't like quiet. That afternoon, while walking back from a supply run, he crossed paths with someone he hadn't seen since his regression. Xiao Quan. A disciple from the Steel Blade Division. The very same person who crippled Luo Chen 3 years ago by smashing his spirit root during a sparring match. Now, Zhao Quan stepped out of the training yard with 2 other disciples, laughing loudly. He froze when he saw Luo Chen. Well, look what the dogs dragged back. You still breathing, trash? Luo Chen said nothing. Just looked at him. His silence made Zhao Quan sneer. You should have stayed dead in the forest. The other 2 stepped forward, clearly about to make a scene. Then, Luo Chen moved. He didn't attack. He simply appeared behind Zhao Quan without warning. Shadow Dash, activated. None of them saw it. Zhao Quan flinched, spinning around. Luo Chen was already walking away. What the hell was that? Did you see him move? No one had. Only the wind remained. And from that moment on, the whispers grew louder. Luo Chen isn't normal. He came back from the wilds alone. He humiliated Zhao Quan without lifting a hand. Even the inner disciples began to take notice. And somewhere, in the inner sanctum of the sect, a pair of elder eyes opened slowly. Bring Luo Chen's profile. The failed one? Yes. The elder's voice was cold. Something's not right with that boy. Zhao Quan was furious. For 3 years, Luo Chen had been nothing but a joke, an easy target, a cripple no one cared about. A perfect outlet for frustration. But now, things were different. Luo Chen hadn't bowed. Hadn't even flinched. And worst of all, he'd moved like a ghost. What kind of movement art was that? Zhao Quan muttered, pacing inside the practice hall. His companions looked uneasy. Could it be some kind of talisman? TCH. He's still trash. I'll prove it tomorrow. The next morning, Luo Chen was summoned to the public sparring ring by outer sect officials. Your name was drawn, said the messenger with a smirk. You'll be facing Zhao Quan. Luo Chen only nodded. He already knew it was coming. In his past life, this match was staged to humiliate him in front of the entire sect. Zhao Quan had beaten him bloody, crushed his knee, and ruined what little future he had left. And now it's happening again, but I'm not the same. A crowd gathered fast. Disciples came for blood. Everyone loved a beating, especially when the victim was a known failure. Luo Chen stepped into the ring calmly. Zhao Quan cracked his knuckles, grinning wide. You should have stayed dead, Luo Chen. You talk too much, Luo Chen replied quietly. The referee signaled. Fight. Zhao Quan lunged in with brute strength, aiming a punch straight for Luo Chen's jaw. He missed. Luo Chen shifted an inch to the side and stepped in, his palm gently tapped Zhao Quan's ribs. Shadow dash, micro step. In the next instant, he vanished and appeared behind him. Crack. A sweeping kick connected squarely with Zhao Quan's back, sending him flying across the ring. The crowd gasped. He landed a hit? Wait, was that movement technique level footwork? Zhao Quan roared and charged again, this time using his martial skill Iron Vein Fist. It didn't matter. Luo Chen dodged every strike with perfect fluidity, like he'd memorized the moves. Because he had. You fought me before, Zhao Quan. I remember every move. When Zhao Quan's form broke for even a second, Luo Chen stepped in again. His elbow struck his opponent's throat, then spun behind him and slammed a palm into the base of his spine. Zhao Quan collapsed, twitching, choking. Silence fell. The referee stared blankly before raising his hand. Luo Chen wins. Later, as the crowd dispersed, whispers spread like wildfire. Was that a new cultivation technique? No way he learned that from the outer sect. Even the inner disciples can't move like that. Back at the outer courtyard, Luo Chen quietly sat alone under a tree. System notice, host defeated target with previously known patterns. Trait progress increased, Shadow Core plus 1%. EXP gained, plus 14%. New skill unlocked, Echo Step, LV.1, movement copy of last opponent. He looked down at his hands. Still calm. Still cold. One by one, I'll erase the past and rewrite it. Far above the sect, the tower shimmered faintly. And for a split second, it seemed to watch him. The storm broke at dawn. Lightning cracked over the sky as dark clouds gathered above Westreach City. The cultivators within the sect woke to the sound of alarm bells. Bang! 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 It was a sound no one ever wanted to hear. Dungeon breach. In the main square, disciples gathered in chaos. Elder Chen barked orders as scrolls unrolled and spirit wards lit up across the outer walls. Mutated beasts from the nearby rift have broken through early. All outer disciples, report to your squad leaders immediately. It was unprecedented. Dungeon breaches were rare, and when they did happen, they never occurred before tower entry. Not in this generation. But Luo Chen wasn't surprised. It happened in my past life too. A freak anomaly. The sect lost over 70 disciples that day. And I almost didn't make it. He moved quickly, blending in with the crowd, wearing the same gray robe as before. He had no badge, no title. But this time, he had power. The forest just beyond the outer gates was already burning. Screeches echoed through the trees as mutated beasts tore through protective wards like wet paper. A squad of disciples screamed as a massive black spike lizard burst through a barrier and charged them. Run! We can't hold it. Luo Chen stepped forward. Fall back. I'll handle it. The squad leader turned. What? You? This isn't a spar, trash. But before he could finish, Luo Chen vanished from sight. Shadow dash activated. He reappeared atop the lizard's back, driving his elbow into the soft spot between its scales. Crack! The beast shrieked and reared up, but Luo Chen was already in front of it, eyes glowing faintly. Echo Step, Black Spike Pounce Imitation. Using the beast's own instinctual lunge, he twisted his body into a mimicry of its attack, then channeled it back at its skull with twice the force. Boom! The lizard collapsed in a heap. Dead. Silence fell again. The disciples stared. What level is he? Did he just kill that thing alone? That movement wasn't human. But Luo Chen was already moving on, deeper into the breach. Beast slain, Black Spike Lizard, Tier 1 Elite. EXP gained X 999, LV.6 LV.7 LV.8. Skill upgraded, Echo Step, LV.2. Passive Absorption Protocol triggered, trait acquired, Scale Harden, Lesser. He felt the surge flow through his body again. Bones reinforced. Reflexes sharpened. His blood thrummed with power. I could get used to this. Suddenly, a sharp scream pierced the air. A younger disciple was pinned under the claws of a beast, barely clinging to life. Luo Chen didn't hesitate. He darted in, grabbed the disciple, and slashed the beast's eyes with a sharpened branch he'd reinforced with his own energy. The monster shrieked and stumbled. Luo Chen leapt back with the injured boy. Who are you? The disciple coughed. Luo Chen didn't answer. He turned to face the monster again and smiled faintly. Just another failure. By nightfall, the breach had been contained, but the bodies told the story. Over 30 disciples were lost. But one group had returned safely, led by the very person everyone had once called trash. And as Elder Chen looked down at the reports, his eyes narrowed. Luo Chen again. How does a talentless cripple slay 4 beasts and lead a rescue party, without any cultivation base? He turned to a nearby deacon. Keep an eye on him. Report everything. Night fell heavy over Westreach sect. The aftermath of the dungeon breach left the outer courtyard in a haze of ash and blood. Disciples limped back with wounds, physical and mental. Some wept. Some sat in stunned silence. But Luo Chen was alone. He sat atop a quiet cliffside overlooking the broken forest, his robe still torn, his hands still stained red. Yet his eyes burned brighter than ever. Level 8. Core Sync Progress 7%. Traits acquired. Night Vision, Lesser. Shadow Affinity, Passive. Scale Harden, Lesser. Echo Reflex, New. New System Notification, Passive Absorption Protocol, Stabilized. Effect: when host delivers the killing blow to a creature, a random trait may be absorbed into your body or core. Luo Chen read the message 3 times. His fingers trembled slightly, not from fear, but from raw excitement. A passive absorption that lets me steal traits with every kill? He thought back. The enhanced vision. The hardened bones. The instinct to mimic. They hadn't come from skills or cultivation techniques. They came from beasts. The system didn't just come back broken, it came back evolving. And no one knew. Meanwhile, within the inner sanctum of Westreach sect, Elder Chen sat beside a glowing formation scroll, watching an orb float silently in the air. Within it, a scene replaying over and over: Luo Chen slaying the Black Spike Lizard. He narrowed his eyes. Too clean. Too fast. That was not the movement of a cripple. He tapped the orb, rewinding again. He dodged before the lizard even pounced. As if he knew. He turned to the robed figure beside him. I want every trace of Luo Chen's history re-examined. Medical records, sparring results, even his childhood talent scores. Are you suspecting possession, Elder? The man asked. Elder Chen frowned. No, something stranger. Back at the cliff, Luo Chen stood and stretched, letting the night wind cool his body. He closed his eyes and focused. Inside his mind, a swirling sphere of shadows pulsed faintly, his shadow core. Still dormant, but stirring. Then the system flickered. Warning: absorption threshold approaching limit. Trait saturation, 4/5. Trigger detected, evolution point available. Evolution? He focused again. A new window opened, glowing faintly. Select 1. Drop of blood hardened scale armor, passive. Eye night vision darksight, extended range plus mana detection. High voltage echo reflex phantom reflex, precognition chance. Sunglasses shadow affinity cloak of shade, partial invisibility in darkness. Luo Chen's heart pounded. I can upgrade my body like a system character. He didn't hesitate. Selected, Shadow Affinity Cloak of Shade. The world rippled. Dark energy pulsed through his veins as his skin shimmered for a brief moment. Then, silence. His breathing calmed. He vanished. For just a second, he completely disappeared into the night. Perfect for the next step. Let them watch. Let them wonder. I'll become the very shadow they fear. And far above, the tower shimmered again, just once. As if it had seen something it shouldn't have. The next day, Westreach sect returned to a fragile calm. Rebuilding efforts began. Injured disciples were treated in the infirmary. Names of the fallen were carved into stone. But one name wasn't on the list. Luo Chen. Not only had he survived, he had rescued others, led a small team to safety, and slain multiple mutated beasts. And now, the elders were watching. In the sect hall, Elder Chen stood in front of the central records pillar, his hand glowing faintly as files scrolled through light. Crippled at age 14. Spirit root shattered during a spar. No cultivation talent detected in 3 years. Failed awakening again at the tower ceremony. He paused. Yet he re-emerges with battlefield instincts, advanced movement techniques, and kills a Tier 1 elite beast solo? Another elder stepped beside him. He's been hiding something. A secret inheritance, perhaps? Elder Chen shook his head. No, this isn't training. This is prediction. He tapped a screen. In the breach, he dodged a split second before a creature even began its attack. As if he'd seen it before. Silence fell between them. Then, softly, reopen surveillance on Luo Chen. Watch every step he takes. Back in the outer courtyard, Luo Chen moved like nothing had changed. He joined the cleanup effort, hauling wood, tending injured beasts, offering aid where others ignored him. The sect still called him trash. And that was perfect. Because behind every quiet action, Luo Chen was observing. Watching the cracks. Mapping the power dynamics. Studying how things had unfolded last time. That night, as he meditated in silence, the system flickered again. Warning, external scan detected, energy signature dampened. System mode, low visibility ghost state enabled. Cloak of Shade passive activation successful. He exhaled slowly. The elders were getting nosy. He needed to stay one step ahead. Let them try to figure me out. I've already lived this life once. They're years behind. Suddenly, a knock. A disciple entered his quarters. A girl with clear eyes and short-cut hair, dressed plainly. I'm Yen Chung. The sect elder wants you to attend the core disciple selection trials next week. Luo Chen raised an eyebrow. Outer disciples aren't invited to those. They made an exception. Of course they did. They want to test me. Watch me in a controlled environment. Trap me, maybe. He smiled politely. I'll be there. As she turned to leave, she paused. I saw what you did in the forest. Thank you. For saving my brother. Luo Chen didn't respond. Not with words. He simply nodded once. When she was gone, his system pinged again. Passive absorption protocol, emotional resonance triggered. Hidden condition unlocked, minor sympathy threshold achieved. Trait gained, inner pulse sense, detect fluctuations in hostile intent nearby. He opened his eyes. The air around him felt sharper. Lies, tension, aggression, it all flickered like sparks in the wind now. Even their thoughts will betray them. The boy they dismissed as trash was no longer blind. And when the tower finally opened, they'd all see it. Too late. The tower loomed at the edge of Westreach City, its ancient black surface stretching far beyond the clouds. It stood as a monument to power and a grave to thousands. And now, after years of preparation, the first entry ceremony had arrived. Only 10 outer sect disciples were selected to enter Floor 1 as a trial party. Luo Chen was one of them. The decision shocked everyone. Luo Chen? That cripple? He wasn't even on the recommended list. Did someone bribe the elders? Even the selected disciples looked uneasy, whispering behind his back. But Luo Chen? He stood silently among them, arms folded, eyes cold. He didn't care about their doubt. Because this was the day everything began again. Earlier that morning, Elder Chen had spoken with Yen Cheng. Observe him inside the tower. If he breaks the balance, withdraw immediately. Yen Cheng nodded, her expression unreadable. He's not what I expected, she said quietly. And what do you believe he is? I don't know, she replied. But he's not trash. The group of 10 gathered at the tower base. Runes glowed along the platform as the portal activated. A vortex of light surged upward. Luochen felt the pulse of ancient energy sweep through his body like a wave. The tower recognized him. But something was off. System alert, temporal interference detected. Warning, you have entered the tower before schedule. System sync disrupted, correction forces notified. Override in progress. Luo Chen's head buzzed. Pain shot through his temples as overlapping voices echoed in his mind. For a brief second, he saw something. Dozens of timelines. Dozens of Luo Chens. Some dying. Some conquering. One, ascending into something inhuman. Then, silence. When his vision returned, he was inside. The sky was gone. The world around him was dark stone and glowing glyphs. A long corridor stretched before them, lined with statues and flickering torches. They were now on floor 1 of the sky-piercing tower. And this time, Luo Chen was ready. Tower entry confirmed, floor 1, trial of mind. System override successful, phantom sync stabilized. New skill tree branch, phantom core available. Yen Xing looked over at him, sensing something strange. His aura, it didn't match anyone else in the group. And when the statues at the end of the hall began to move, preparing to test them, Luo Chen stepped forward first. Let's get this over with. With that, he walked calmly into the trial of mind ahead of everyone else. The boy who was once considered trash had just taken his first step into the tower. Not to survive it, but to break it. The stone corridor sealed behind them with a low boom. The 10 disciples stood in silence, the flickering torchlight casting long shadows on their tense faces. Ahead, the path split into 10 archways, each marked with glowing runes and a single line of writing. To climb higher, one must first face themselves. Luo Chen didn't hesitate. While the others hesitated, whispering in confusion, he stepped into the first archway. It closed behind him with a pulse of spiritual energy. Inside, there was only darkness. Then, without warning, a mirror rose from the ground, polished like obsidian glass. Luo Chen looked at it. And what looked back was himself. But different. His reflection sneered. You think this second life means something? You were weak then, and you're still weak now. Luo Chen remained still. Calm. Watching. You let your friends die. You ran when it mattered. And this system? You'll lose it too. You're not chosen. You're broken. The reflection stepped out of the mirror, taking form an exact duplicate of Luo Chen, but radiating overwhelming aura. A version of himself without pain, without empathy. Without regret. The trial of mind had begun. System alert, tower mechanism detected, psychological projection type. Warning, phantom self has 130% of user's combat stats. System adaptation active, shadow core resonance engaged. So the tower's testing my will by forcing me to fight myself. But the real question is, which version of me is stronger? The phantom attacked first. Faster than Luo Chen expected. A spinning kick aimed for his throat. He dodged by instinct and countered with echo step, catching the phantom's movement and redirecting it. They clashed in a blur of motion, strike for strike, technique for technique. But Luo Chen noticed something. This version of me fights without hesitation, but also without purpose. It's efficient but predictable. And predictability was something Luo Chen could exploit. He faked a retreat. The phantom lunged. Luo Chen vanished. Cloak of Shade, activated. He reappeared behind his doppelganger, slamming his elbow into the back of its neck, then sweeping its legs out from under it. The phantom collapsed, but didn't vanish. It smirked, blood dripping from its lip. You hesitate. You still care. That will always make you weak. Luo Chen stood over it, ice cold. No. That makes me human. And that's what makes me dangerous. He drove his fist into the phantom's chest. It shattered into black mist. Trial complete. Mind stable, resistance grade S. Reward, +2 levels, +1 trait slot unlocked, Phantom Core Skill Tree activated. New skill acquired, Shadow Mind, immunity to mental illusions and false memory attacks. Luo Chen stepped out of the archway before anyone else. The elders observing through their spiritual mirrors went completely still. He passed, in record time. No signs of struggle. No spiritual instability. And his aura, why does it feel like the tower recognizes him? Elder Chen clenched his jaw. Something's very wrong with this boy. Luo Chen rejoined the group in silence. The others were still inside, still battling their fears, their trauma. He sat on a stone platform, eyes closed, already planning the next floor. Because this time, he wasn't just surviving the tower. He was climbing it to break everything above. Hours passed before the next disciple emerged from their trial archway, sweating, pale, barely standing. By the time all 10 had finished, only 4 had passed. Luo Chen was the first and the calmest. And the one drawing the most attention. How did he pass so quickly? I thought he was just lucky during the breach. No one that weak should have survived the trial of mind. But Luo Chen ignored the murmurs. His mind was on floor 1's next chamber, a deadly ruin filled with ancient traps, roaming beasts, and shifting walls. He'd died here once before. This time, he'd use that death. The group advanced deeper into the tower. Stone walls gave way to sprawling halls etched with glowing patterns. Runes flickered along the floor, symbols that changed positions constantly. The floor ahead crumbled, revealing hidden spike pits and collapsing walkways. Panic began to spread. It's a trap floor. The map keeps shifting, how do we cross? Yanqing studied the runes. Her brows furrowed. This is a memory trial. The symbols form a path that resets unless recalled perfectly. Luo Chen stepped forward. I remember the sequence. She turned to him, surprised. How? I've studied similar ruins, he lied easily. Let me go first. The group hesitated, but the tower wasn't waiting. The walls rumbled as time ticked forward. Finally, the others gave way. Luo Chen stepped onto the first tile. It glowed faint blue. Then the second. The third. Behind him, another disciple misstepped and was immediately caught in a glyph snare, hoisted upside down by the ankle. Luo Chen didn't stop. He walked cleanly across the 49-tile trap field using exact memory, remembering each symbol's glow, pattern, and reaction. Because he had died here before. And he had nothing but time to memorize it back then. He reached the far side and turned. Follow my steps exactly. One by one, the others followed, guided by Luo Chen's memory. Yanqing was the last. As she landed beside him, she narrowed her eyes. You didn't just study this. You knew it. Luo Chen didn't deny it. Does it matter? No, she said after a moment. But it scares me a little. The chamber rumbled again. Ahead, the next gate opened, leading to the floor's final guardian. Luo Chen tensed. Here comes the Bloodvine Queen. The others flinched. What? That's a known mini-boss. We're not even full core disciples. Yanqing spoke sharply. Then we'll have to fight like we are. But Luo Chen stepped forward first, eyes sharp. "Don't get in my way. I've killed her once already." The others stared in disbelief. And somewhere deep within the tower, old glyphs flared, reacting not to Luo Chen's power, but to his memories. System alert, historical overlap detected. Tower pathway altered, world line interference confirmed. New title unlocked, loop breaker hidden. Effect, immune to first death penalties within the tower. He clenched his fists. Let's finish this floor. Because the tower may have been eternal. But so was his memory. The Bloodvine Queen was dead. Her shriek had echoed through the halls before her enormous root-covered body collapsed into a heap of withered vines and green-black ichor. It should have taken 5 people to bring her down. But Luo Chen did it alone. His blade, formed from compressed shadow energy, sliced clean through her core just before she entered berserk phase. He timed it perfectly, retreating from her growth zones and attacking only when her limbs extended too far. It wasn't brute strength. It was knowledge. In my last life, she wiped out half our team. This time, she didn't even touch me. After the battle, the party rested in his safe chamber. Yanqing tended to a disciple's wounds while 2 others gathered energy herbs nearby. Luo Chen sat in the far corner, eyes closed, silent. But inside the system, his progress roared. Bloodvine Queen defeated, elite class mutant. EXP gained, plus 3,200, multiplied x 3. Level up, 8 9 10 11. Skill acquired, Thorn Lash, converted to Shadow variant. Passive trait absorbed, Regenerative Root Core, lesser. Core Awakening progress, 12%. Shadow Core perk unlocked, Silent Bloom, regain energy while hidden or resting. He exhaled slowly, steadying the surge of power flowing through his limbs. He felt stronger, not just in body, but in awareness. His footsteps had grown quieter. His pulse more stable. Even the tower's suppressive aura couldn't fully weigh him down anymore. And yet, he said nothing. Later that night, while the others slept, Luo Chen left the chamber silently. No one noticed. No one could. He hunted alone through the side corridors, sections of the floor other disciples didn't know about. There, minor beast-type creatures still roamed, left behind by the Bloodvine Queen to guard her territory. Luo Chen moved like a shadow, slipping through cracks, striking from behind. Each kill brought more power. Quietly. Efficiently. Invisibly. System notice, Stealthy XP protocol active. Trait amplification, stealth efficiency increased by 80% while alone. Skill progressing, Echo Step, LV.3, Cloak of Shade, LV.2. By the time dawn approached, Luo Chen had leveled again. Level 12. And no one knew. When he returned, Yanqing looked up. "You're not even tired," she said quietly. He only offered a neutral smile. "I recover quickly." She didn't press further. But later, when the others weren't looking, she whispered. "You're not just strong, Luo Chen. You're dangerous." Luo Chen didn't deny it. Because she was right. The tower levels up everyone. But I level faster when no one's watching. And this time, when he reached the top, no one would catch up. The others thought the trial was over. The Bloodvine Queen's body had been incinerated. Her vines reduced to ash. The disciples celebrated the victory, though most knew deep down, it wasn't theirs. But for Luo Chen, the fight was just beginning. Because the tower had noticed something was wrong. That night, after his solo hunt and silent leveling, Luo Chen sat alone, meditating. The system's interface pulsed erratically. Tower feedback loop detected. Trigger, knowledge of unrecorded timeline. World correction protocol adjusting memory layers. Warning, memory interference imminent. His eyes snapped open. The stone around him warped. The world twisted, and suddenly, he was no longer in the chamber. He was back. Back in his first life. The sky was red. Screams echoed in the distance. The Blood Vine Queen, in full monstrous glory, was tearing through the team. Disciples died one by one, flung against walls, skewered by vine spears, crushed under root limbs. Luo Chen staggered, bleeding, powerless. He remembered this. He'd barely escaped alive. No, this is an illusion. A memory trial. But why now? Suddenly, the tower's voice echoed around him, not the system, but something older. Deeper. You should not remember. You died here. Your knowledge defies sequence. The Blood Vine Queen turned toward him, but this time, her face shifted. Not just a beast, but something wearing a mask. A shadowy figure draped in vine and bone, eyes gleaming with tower glyphs. You are not meant to climb. You were rejected. Luo Chen clenched his fists. Then why am I still alive? Why is your tower still letting me in? The creature lunged. Luo Chen didn't run. He moved through the memory. Through the pain. Through the fear. He attacked with full clarity, cutting the illusion apart with a condensed slash of shadow dash and thorn lash combined. The masked queen shrieked as her body split open and the illusion shattered. He returned to the stone chamber with a gasp. Sweat dripped down his back. His breathing was ragged. But he was stronger. Memory confrontation passed, loop breaker status confirmed. Shadow core progress plus 3%. New trait acquired, memory anchor, immune to false pasts or altered timelines. Skill upgrade, Thorn Lash Blood Thorn Bind, can root enemies briefly. Luo Chen stood. The tower wasn't just watching him now. It was testing him. Trying to unravel his mind. Trying to correct what it couldn't understand. But it was already too late. You let me in once. You won't get the chance to stop me again. The next morning, as the party prepared to ascend to the next floor, Yan Shang noticed something different in Luo Chen's gaze. Something ancient. Like he'd already lived 100 years ahead of them. She didn't ask. She simply stepped beside him and said, "You're not climbing the tower. You're invading it." Luo Chen didn't answer. But he didn't need to. Because the next floor awaited, and the tower was already reacting to him like an infection it couldn't purge. The spiral staircase leading to the next floor was long, dark, and unnaturally silent. Even the usual pulse of spiritual energy had faded. Luo Chen's group climbed in uneasy silence. Behind their footsteps, the tower whispered, soft, distant, and ancient. He walks a path not written. He carries memory not given. Correction must begin. Luo Chen paused. His system chimed. System alert, external force detected, correction marker deployed. Warning, tower has marked host as a causal anomaly. Initiating adaptive protocol, error class, loopbreaker, level 1. At first, it seemed like a notification. But then, it burned. A searing pain erupted along his back. He stumbled slightly, one hand gripping the stone wall. Yan Shang looked up, worried. What's wrong? The tower just tagged me. Marked you? No. Something worse. He didn't explain further. When they reached the next floor, everything had changed. Gone was the structured ruin. Now they stood in a wide, open battlefield. Black fog rolled over scorched stone. Craters dotted the land. Faint echoes of war pulsed through the air. A massive glowing circle hovered in the sky above them, spinning like a clock with broken hands. And in the center of the floor was a black monolith. One word burned on its surface. Correction. The system pinged again. Tower floor modifier active, correction enforcement initiated. Special rule, anomaly will be hunted during floor completion. Modifier applied, elite corrector squad spawned. Luo Chen exhaled slowly. So the tower was sending something after him. Not a monster. Not a test. But a team. Killers built to fix the timeline. They're not coming for all of us, he said. They're coming for me. Yanqing's eyes widened. What the hell is happening, Luo Chen? The tower wants to rewrite me. And it's going to try. Then the sky cracked. Figures dropped from the clouds, 6 of them, cloaked in silver, their bodies wrapped in living runes. Their faces were blank masks. No mouths. No eyes. Each one moved in eerie unison. Not like hunters. Like executioners. Corrector elite unit, type, time enforcement agents. Skill set, adaptive mimicry, anomaly suppression, memory extraction. The others instinctively drew weapons. Yanqing stepped forward, but Luochen held out a hand. Don't interfere. This floor's correction is for me alone. And then he vanished. Cloak of Shade, activated. From the shadows, Luochen struck first. A blade of compressed shadow pierced through the chest of the closest agent, but it didn't fall. It twisted midair, detached its own limb, and regenerated in seconds. Then all 6 turned toward his direction at once. The fight had begun. And this time, it wasn't about passing a trial. It was survival against the will of the tower itself. New objective: defeat all correctors before floor collapse. Reward: suppression of correction marker plus unique upgrade path. You want to fix me? Try. The battle against the correctors lasted 10 full minutes. To the others, it felt like an eternity. Luochen moved like a shadow through smoke, striking and vanishing before the agents could react. But the correctors adapted quickly. With every clash, they mimicked his movements. With every attack, they adjusted. What saved him wasn't raw power. It was unpredictability. He was fighting not like a cultivator, but like someone from outside the tower's logic. Like a virus in its perfect system. Corrector Unit Number 3, destroyed. Corrector Unit Number 5, immobilized. Trait absorbed, reactive defense thread, fragment. Correction marker suppression, 67%. When the last 2 collapsed into runes and vanished, the battlefield quieted. Luochen dropped to one knee, panting. Blood dripped from his fingers. He'd taken a hit. One of the agents had pierced his side with a temporal thread that disrupted healing. It still stung like burning glass. But he was alive. And more importantly, still himself. A system message blinked faintly. Unique upgrade path unlocked, Phantom Override, Tier 1. Override? So even the tower's correction attempts give me power now. He clenched his jaw and forced himself upright. But as he turned, he froze. Someone was watching him from the edge of the battlefield. A lone figure cloaked in gray, partially masked, leaning against a scorched stone pillar. Not part of his group. Not part of the tower. Just there. The figure stepped forward casually, hands raised. Relax. I didn't come to fight. Luochen narrowed his eyes. You shouldn't be here. The man chuckled. That's what the tower keeps telling you, isn't it? Luochen's fists tightened. Who are you? Call me June. He stopped just outside striking range. I'm not with the correctors. In fact, I've been dodging them longer than you've been alive. You're like me? Luochen asked. June tilted his head. Not quite. I wasn't supposed to be here at all. But, let's just say I took the wrong door and ended up inside the tower permanently. Been living off glitches ever since. So you're a tower ghost. Close enough. But now I see you, someone with an actual system messing with causality? He smiled under the mask. That's new. And dangerous. Luochen didn't lower his guard. Why are you talking to me? Because I'm curious. And maybe. June stepped closer. Maybe I want to see if you survive floor 2. He tossed something forward, a black fragment of crystal with strange runes etched into it. Use that if the tower tries to overwrite you again. It's a key. To what? June smirked. To answers you're not ready for. And then, in a blink, he was gone. The others caught up moments later, led by Yen Cheng. "You're bleeding, what happened?" "Correction team," he muttered. "It's done." She looked at the battlefield, then at his eyes. "You should have died." He met her gaze. "I don't die easy." That night, he examined the black fragment. The runes pulsed faintly. Alive. Even the system didn't seem to recognize it. Not a reward. Not a trap. A message. The tower had enemies inside it. And one had just handed him a weapon. Inventory updated, unknown key, June shard. Tower integrity response, pending. Luo Chen looked up toward the next path. The tower's not just waking up. It's scared. The climb continued. After the correction marker event, the tower shifted again, walls grew colder, floors stretched longer, time seemed to stutter in brief, disjointed seconds. The others noticed. But only Luo Chen understood. They were being watched more closely now. Every step. Every breath. Even the air felt like it had eyes. And he knew what that meant. The tower wasn't done. System warning, dimensional surveillance increased. Host identity, anomaly class, loopbreaker. Projected event, secondary correction incoming. He didn't tell the others. They were tired, low on spirit energy, and on edge. Even Yen Cheng had started glancing at him like a ticking talisman, useful, but terrifying. So he kept walking. Until they reached the forked corridor near Floor 2's final gate. And that's when it happened. The temperature dropped instantly. From the walls, Correctors Phase 2 stepped out, 9 of them this time, armored in layered black and silver. Their masks had mouths now. But they weren't smiling. One raised a blade and spoke in a fractured voice. "Anomaly 013. You should have died on Floor 1. The tower has authorized lethal correction." They didn't wait for a reply. They attacked all at once. The rest of the group froze in terror. One disciple was cut down instantly. Another screamed and fled only to vanish into a glyph trap and never return. Yen Cheng gritted her teeth, drew her sword, and charged, but the correctors ignored her. Every strike, every technique, they were all focused on Luo Chen. He moved with practiced speed, sliding between blades, using echo step to double his afterimage, vanishing and reappearing behind enemies. But they were faster now. They'd evolved. System overclock, activated. Shadow core synchronization, 47%. Trait boost, reflex chain plus passive recall, ghost step. Still, Luo Chen began to feel the pressure. A slash tore across his ribs. A binding rune locked one of his legs. He dropped to a knee. They're learning too fast. If I hold back, I die. Then. The shard. June's gift. Luo Chen pulled it from his inventory, slammed it into the ground. And the tower paused. For a fraction of a second, everything around him froze. Time fractured. Runes shattered. And the correctors flinched, glitched. Unknown key activated, temporal breakpoint. Anomaly control priority granted, duration, 7 seconds. 7 seconds. He didn't waste a single one. He moved through them like a ghost, cutting pressure points, tearing through rune cores, unraveling their bindings. By the time resumed, 4 correctors fell apart instantly. 3 more recoiled and blinked out of existence. The last 2 tried to flee. Luo Chen chased them down and ended it with 2 sharp strikes of bloodthorn bind. They did not regenerate. They did not return. Silence. Then. System update, correction marker removed, status, free anomaly. Reward, skill mutation triggered. Echo step phantom kill, LV.1, leave behind a shadow that strikes 1.5s later. The battlefield was a mess. 3 of the disciples were dead. 2 more were injured beyond fighting ability. Only Yen Cheng stood without trembling. She looked at him, eyes dark. That wasn't human. Luo Chen turned toward the staircase ahead, the gateway to floor 3. Neither is what's coming next. And he walked forward. Because if the tower was going to send killers after him, he'd become the kind of monster they couldn't predict. The moment Luo Chen stepped into the transition chamber to floor 3, the system trembled. Not just flickered. Not just lagged. It glitched. System notification error, skill tree detected. Undefined node. Attempting to parse. Parsing failed. Override in progress. System upgrade, forced evolution triggered. Luo Chen gritted his teeth as blue-white data surged across his vision. The floor dissolved into code-like fragments. Glyphs spun wildly. His body felt like it was being rewritten at the core level. And then, something inside him snapped. Memories surged forward. Fights from his past life. Losses. Victories. Moments he thought he'd buried. They collided with the system data, rewriting his techniques in real time. Not planned upgrades. Not logical improvements. Just raw adaptation. His interface stabilized. But something was different. New skill evolution complete. Phantom Kill Shadow Divide, LV.1. Effect, leave a delayed shadow afterimage that mimics your last action with 80% damage. May split and auto-attack once per 5 seconds. Cloak of Shade Wraithform, LV.1. Effect, temporarily enter a half-spiritual state, ignoring all physical barriers and gaining extreme movement speed. Duration, 3 seconds. Cooldown, 60 seconds. Warning, these upgrades are not supported by current tower architecture. Status, instability detected, tower may attempt containment on floor 3. Luo Chen exhaled slowly. His hands shimmered slightly. Not from spirit energy, but something else. Something unstable. The tower is forcing my system to evolve out of sync, and it can't keep up with the changes. Good. He looked ahead. The rest of the group wouldn't catch up for another hour. Yan Sheng was tending to the wounded. The sect would send backup soon. But Luo Chen didn't wait. He walked forward, alone, deeper into floor 3. The hall lit up as he moved, reacting to his presence. Only now, the glyphs didn't flare red or gold like before. They flickered. Unstable. Fractured. Almost afraid. As he stepped through the final seal into the next zone, a message blinked, faint and fragmented. Error, trait not recognized. Host is not in database. Host is writing their own skill tree. Luo Chen smiled darkly. Then keep watching, tower. Because I'm just getting started. Floor 3 was unlike any that came before it. It wasn't a trial. It wasn't a dungeon. It wasn't even a battlefield. It was a library. But not one of books. Instead, walls of glowing script flowed endlessly across obsidian pillars, towering spires etched with moving runes that reshaped themselves as you walked past. Some showed visions of past battles. Others, blueprints of techniques. And deeper in, some revealed timelines. Luo Chen walked alone, his footsteps silent on the polished black floor. Around him, history unraveled in fragmented pieces. Famous cultivators from the past climbed the tower. Some perished here. Others ascended to godhood. But one thing was consistent. They never remembered. Each record ended in the same phrase, encoded in light. This climb is your first. There were no others. But Luo Chen remembered. He walked past one pillar and saw himself, the version of him that died here in his first life. Shivering. Wounded. Alone. And betrayed. He clenched his fists. You tried to erase that. But I lived it. He reached toward the pillar. And it reacted. System alert, causality clash triggered. Timeline sync point detected, loopbreaker memory confirms external reality. New protocol unlocked, hidden archive access. The room changed instantly. The walls collapsed outward, revealing a massive spiral staircase that twisted downward. Deeper than the tower was supposed to go. Black lightning flickered above. Chains of light held certain doors shut. But one corridor was open. And at the entrance, a line burned itself into the air. "Welcome back." Luo Chen stepped inside. Within, forgotten records floated in stasis, suspended data fragments and glitched skill crystals. But one thing caught his eye. A stone altar sat at the center, holding a broken tower fragment. It pulsed faintly with purple energy. And carved onto it, in ancient script, was a message. "The tower resets. But not all of us forget. If you are reading this, you are a flaw in fate. And that means you can choose." Suddenly, a sharp presence approached. Luo Chen turned. And saw Jun, again, leaning in the shadows. "You weren't supposed to find this yet," he said, not smiling this time. Luo Chen didn't blink. "You left me the key. I didn't think you'd actually activate it." Jun walked up to the altar, hands behind his back. "The deeper you go, the more the tower will fight back. The system you're carrying, it wasn't meant to exist beyond floor 4. Then I'll rewrite it." Jun stared at him for a long moment. Then, he smirked. "You really are the error." The altar flashed. Fragment absorbed, tower memory core, damaged. Phantom core progress, 64%. New passive, memory drift, gain insight from suppressed timelines during battle. The spiral chamber began to collapse. Data dissolved. Pillars fractured. The tower was rejecting him again. But Luo Chen stepped out calmly, rising back toward floor 3's true trial. "You can erase the others. But I'll remember all of them." Because the tower had buried its secrets. And Luo Chen? He was about to dig them all up. The exit of floor 3 was guarded by a stone gate etched with countless runes. It didn't open with strength. Not even with keys. It opened with cultivation. To pass, one had to achieve a breakthrough. Publicly. In front of the tower's will. And with no help. The remaining disciples gathered in a ritual chamber filled with spiritual mist. The walls pulsed softly with energy. One by one, they sat and attempted to push their cores to the next level. Some screamed. Some failed. Only 2 succeeded. And neither was Luo Chen. Because he didn't try. He stood off to the side, silent. Watching. Waiting. Yan Qing approached him, her robe slightly scorched from her earlier breakthrough. "You're not going to break through?" He looked at her calmly. "I already did." She frowned, confused. And then she noticed it. His aura wasn't leaking, but it was dense. Controlled. Like compressed lightning inside a bottle. Her eyes widened. "Your rank D?" Luo Chen didn't answer. But the glint in his eyes said enough. The tower reacted immediately. System notification, breakthrough confirmed, rank D achieved. Hidden condition met, breakthrough hidden from tower visibility. Stealth protocol activated, Veil core. Passive unlocked, cloaked ascension, gain 5% stat bonus when breakthrough is hidden. Luo Chen had advanced during his solo fights. During the correction battles. During the memory crash in the hidden archives. But he did it quietly. Because the tower watched progress. And progress that went unseen? That was power it couldn't yet suppress. Elder Shen's voice echoed from a projection at the chamber's edge. "Those who have broken through may proceed to the next floor." A portal opened, spiraling upward into pale white light. Luo Chen stepped forward. Yan Cheng blinked, then followed. Behind them, the others hesitated. As he entered the light, the system flickered again. Floor 3 cleared. Reward, hidden technique tree, Shadow God's path, locked. Glitch detected, host now exists outside standard tower progression. Warning, you are no longer climbing the tower. Correction, you are rewriting it. The white light consumed him. And when he emerged into floor 4, the tower felt different. Not like an ancient relic, but like something alive. And afraid. Because for the first time in recorded tower history, a cultivator had passed 3 floors without being recorded. And what the tower couldn't log, it couldn't control. The portal's light faded. Luo-Chen stepped out into familiar soil, the outer courtyard of Azure Cloud Sect. A place that once exiled him. Now, it watched him. News of the tower expedition had already reached the sect. But no one expected him to return. Not first. Not unscathed. Not changed. Disciples paused mid-practice as he passed. Elders whispered from behind formation veils. The same halls that once sneered at him now fell silent. Only Elder Mo dared to approach. "You survived," he said slowly. Luo-Chen's gaze was calm. Obviously. Elder Mo's eyes narrowed. "The tower listed your party as incomplete. You're not even on the standard breakthrough register." "Of course I'm not," Luo-Chen thought. "The tower couldn't track me." Officially, he was still rank E. Still the waste. But those who sensed his spirit noticed something different. Too calm. Too still. Like a blade hidden under silk. Later that day, Luo-Chen walked to the training field where inner disciples sparred. There, standing in the center, was Zhou Fan, the same elite who once called him trash in front of the entire sect. Zhou laughed as he saw him. "The dead waste returns from the tower? What did you carry someone's baggage again?" Luo-Chen didn't reply. He simply raised a hand. And beckoned. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Zhou Fan's face twisted. "You dare challenge me?" "You're not worth a challenge," Luo-Chen said. "But I need to show the sect something." The duel was brief. Zhou Fan struck with a Thunder Fist technique, mid-rank D. Luo-Chen dodged without effort, his body moving like water. Then, Phantom Kill. A delayed afterimage struck Zhou Fan's ribs just after Luo-Chen stepped past him. Crack! The elite disciple collapsed, groaning in pain, coughing blood. The courtyard fell silent. No techniques flared. No elders interrupted. Because none of them knew what they'd just seen. Luo-Chen looked around. "This is your best," he said quietly. "I'm disappointed." And then he left. That night, he sat beneath the ancient bamboo grove, meditating. The system whispered in his mind. Hidden reputation unlocked, sect ghost. Effect, sect members will underestimate you until directly confronted. Shadow core progress, 72%. Memory anchor ping, faint trace of a future timeline detected. He opened his eyes slowly. And in the sky above the sect, a faint ripple tore through the clouds. An eye. A divine presence. Watching him. Only him. The tower had noticed his return. But something above the tower had opened its gaze. And it was only the beginning. 3 days passed since Luo-Chen's return to Azure Cloud Sect. He kept a low profile. But rumors spread faster than fire. He beat Zhou Fan with a single move. They say the tower couldn't record him. He's hiding his cultivation, but how? The elders held emergency meetings. No one dared confront him outright, not without exposing their own fear. But Luo-Chen didn't care. He wasn't here for glory. He was here to rebuild. To prepare. And to evolve. In a secluded cavern below the sect, a forbidden space once used for failed core experiments, Luo-Chen sat cross-legged. Dark mist drifted around him. Fragments of corrupted cultivation manuals lay scattered nearby. One bore the faded title, Shadow Burial Sutra. Another, Logic Flow Breathing Manual, banned. He absorbed them both. Not for their techniques, but for their errors. System fusion protocol activated. Combining shadow burial plus logic flow plus tower phantom path. Processing. I'm not cultivating like they do. I'm rewriting the path. He drew in breath and began crafting his own method. He visualized a rotating sigil not centered around energy but information. Not how much spirit power one had, but how efficiently it flowed. He rebuilt his core like an engine. Rewired his meridians like a circuit array. New technique created, Ghost Circuit Manual, LV.1. Type, logic-based internal cultivation. Effect, reduce energy loss by 60%. Gain bonus effects when using hybrid or glitched skills. Trait gained, silent sync, skills execute 0.3s faster when hidden. Luo Chen opened his eyes. The cave vibrated faintly. His presence now pulsed without spirit release. A silent storm, compressed into form. Suddenly, the system blinked. Memory drift engaged, past timeline detected. A flicker ran through his mind. He saw himself in another life, trying to learn the same forbidden techniques. But they never worked. Because I was following their logic. Now, I make my own. Above ground, Yin Xing sensed something. She turned toward the mountain's core. His aura just vanished, she whispered. No. It didn't vanish. It outgrew the system. Luo Chen stood from the altar. The forbidden manuals crumbled into ash. He no longer needed them. Because what he was building had never existed before. Ghost Circuit Manual, Progress, 4%. Compatibility, 100% with Shadow Core / 52% with System Tree. Tower Reaction, Passive Monitoring activated. For now, the tower watched silently. But not for long. Because once he started climbing again, nothing could keep up. The next morning, the sect sky turned gold. A massive flying artifact, shaped like an ancient bronze lotus, descended from the clouds, blotting out the sun. Dozens of disciples stared in awe, whispering in hushed tones. A single sigil glowed at its base. Golden Pavilion Sacred Academy. Elder Mo rushed to the central plaza, robes hastily arranged. Even the sect master emerged from seclusion. Because when the Golden Pavilion arrived unannounced, it was never just a visit. A voice echoed from above. Smooth. Arrogant. Regal. Azure Cloud Sect. By decree of the pavilion's 9th seat, we extend an invitation. To a single disciple who has caught the pavilion's eye. Gasps rippled through the courtyard. Luo Chen. Silence. Then chaos. He's not even ranked officially. There must be a mistake. But then. Luo Chen walked out from the side corridor, robes simple, gaze calm. As if he knew this would happen. A man floated down from the lotus ship. Young. Refined. Dressed in black gold robes. He held a golden scroll in one hand and wore a white blindfold over both eyes. Luo Chen. By the pavilion's decree, you are invited to attend the Inner World Proving Grounds as a guest challenger. Your performance in the tower intrigued our master. Luo Chen said nothing at first. He looked at the scroll. Then at the blindfolded envoy. And finally, at the other disciples, some stunned, some seething. He took the scroll without bowing. I'll come, he said simply. But I don't follow rules. The envoy smiled faintly. That's why you were chosen. Back inside his quarters, the system flickered with new alerts. External opportunity detected, Golden Pavilion invitation. Estimated danger level, high. Reward potential, exceptional. Note, Pavilion contains fragments of tower origin artifacts. Passive updated, world interest, high-tier factions will now attempt to observe or influence your actions. Luo Chen stared out the window, watching the lotus ship hover like a god's eye in the sky. He wasn't even climbing the tower right now. And yet, its shadow reached this far. Let them gather. I'll break more than their expectations. Because this time, the world was coming to him. And soon, they'd realize. He wasn't part of their script anymore. The day after Luo-Chen accepted the Golden Pavilion scroll, the sky split open. Not with lightning. Not with thunder. But with presence. It began as a ripple. A soundless vibration that passed through stone, bone, and soul. Even beasts in the mountains fled in silence. And then, the clouds above the azure cloud sect parted like silk, revealing a vast eye-shaped tear in the firmament. An otherworldly pupil stared down. Golden. Circular. Eternal. A divine gaze. All across the continent, cultivators felt it. Old masters shuddered in meditation. Hidden experts broke through in fear. Ancient sects activated long-forgotten seals. And deep in the tower's data logs, a single phrase blinked repeatedly. Unauthorized entity detected, observer class, unknown. Attention fixed, Luo-Chen. In the Azure Cloud sect, disciples collapsed from spiritual pressure. Elder Mo coughed blood. The sect master himself summoned 6 layers of shielding just to stand upright. Only Luo-Chen remained still. He looked up, brow furrowed. Not in fear, but in recognition. I've seen this before, he whispered. Not in this life. Not clearly. But in fragments. During the collapse. Just before I died last time, this thing looked at me. No, not just looked. It tried to erase me. Suddenly, the system flared. Emergency protocol triggered, divine sighting level, red. Effect, all observational tools locked. Host profile scrambled temporarily. Warning, divine class beings may attempt correction, fusion, or memory rewrite. Suggested action, do nothing. But Luo-Chen didn't listen. He raised his hand slowly, deliberately, and formed the core sigil of Ghost Circuit Manual. He sent a single pulse of energy back. Just a ripple. Not an attack. Not defiance. Just a message. I'm not yours. The eye blinked. Once. And then vanished. As if amused. The clouds returned. The pressure faded. But the world didn't forget. Within the Golden Pavilion's main chamber, a blindfolded elder stood. Sweating. His divine sense had been sliced clean for a full minute. Who is this child? He whispered. Who is brave enough to answer back? Luo-Chen sat in meditation beneath the bamboo grove, his heart calm. The system trembled, stabilizing. Trait updated, divine noticed. Effect, divine class entities can now perceive you beyond normal dimensional veils. Passive added, observers echo, occasionally glimpse visions from higher realms. He opened his eyes. His gaze sharper. His presence colder. Because now he knew. He hadn't just defied fate. He had its attention. And next, he planned to break it. 3 days later, the Lotus ship from the Golden Pavilion descended again. This time, Luo-Chen stepped aboard. No fanfare. No words. Just him, cloaked in black, eyes unreadable. The vessel rose like a divine arc, gliding across the clouds toward the inner world-proving grounds. A floating continent sealed off from the mortal realm. Where talent was tested. Where geniuses died. System alert, world event, Heavenly Talent Tournament, Tier 3. Participants, 108 sects, 300 plus elite cultivators under rank C. Objective, survive all trials. Final ranking determines faction invitations and reward pool. Note, host has no official ranking. You will be treated as an unlisted challenger. He didn't care. Luo-Chen sat alone inside the guest quarters of the ship, ignoring the curious glances of pavilion elders and other invitees. He felt the hum of ancient formations beneath his feet. Sensed hidden observers scanning his presence. And he let them. When they arrived, the sky rippled open to reveal the heavenly arena. A floating landmass of jade stone, waterfalls, and vast stadiums carved into the clouds. In the center tower, a divine monument of light, its surface glowing with names and ranks. None of them were his. Yet, Chen was escorted to the staging area for unlisted wildcards. A camp of misfits, rogue cultivators, and rogue faction representatives. The other participants looked at him with doubt, amusement, and subtle fear. But one girl stood out. Wearing crimson robes, with twin blades and a mocking smile. "You're Chen, right?" He nodded. "Good," she said. "They told me I'd want to watch you die in person." He didn't reply. Because in that moment, the air trembled. The monument of light pulsed and a voice like rolling thunder echoed across the skies. The Heavenly Talent Tournament begins. Trial 1, Battle Gauntlet. Survive 5 duels. Win 3. Kill is allowed. Begin transmission of random pairings. Names flickered into the sky, blazing across the monument like runes of fate. Chen's opponent. Zhao Yunfeng, rank C genius of Blue Flame Sect. Known for 13 kill victories. Fire domain compression. Gasps spread like wildfire. They're pairing an unlisted with Zhao Yunfeng? That's murder. Why even bother? Inside the arena, Zhao Yunfeng stood tall, flame armor igniting around him. "You should surrender," he said with a grin. "Your name won't even make the stone." Chen calmly stepped onto the platform. "Then I'll carve it in." The bell rang. Fire exploded. The duel had begun. Zhao Yunfeng's flame burst forward like a tidal wave. Compressed fire essence laced with metal affinity meant to melt defenses in seconds. The crowd leaned in, expecting a quick burn. But Chen didn't move. Not at first. System buff active, cloaked ascension, stat bonus while cultivation is hidden, plus 5%. Ghost circuit manual sync, 92%. He stepped sideways once, just once, and vanished into the smoke. No flash. No wind. Just gone. Zhao Yunfeng frowned. Cheap trick. He swung wide, a blazing arc. But the blade hit air. Then, slice. A thin red line appeared across his side. Delayed pain bloomed a full second later. "Phantom kill," someone whispered. "But that doesn't make sense. It's too clean. Too fast." Zhao growled, igniting a dome of flame to flush him out. "Stop hiding. You want a real fight, step into the light." He didn't know. Chen was already inside the dome. Skill activated, wraith form, phase movement through flame barriers. Passive triggered, silence sync, skill execution delay reduced. Zhao felt a pressure behind him. He turned. And was slammed into the ground. 3 strikes landed in the space of one breath. When the smoke cleared, Zhao Yunfeng lay coughing blood, half his armor torn off, flames flickering wildly. Duel complete, victory, Chen. Bonus achieved, first strike / no damage taken. Ranking adjusted, from unlisted pending placement. The arena went silent. Then, exploded. What the hell was that speed? He was supposed to be E rank. Was that glitched movement? Observers from higher sects began scribbling furiously. The Golden Pavilion envoy simply smiled behind his blindfold. "He's hiding his core," he whispered to himself. And still winning. Back at the wildcard camp, the Crimson Girl from earlier clapped slowly. "Interesting," she said. "You're not as boring as I thought." Chen sat calmly, eyes closed, meditating. Hidden buff, first public victory, cultivation suppression successful. System sync progress, 76%. He was letting them underestimate him. Because only fools showed all their cards in round 1. And Chen? He wasn't here to win a match. He was here to shake the rankings to their roots. Luo Chen's second match was delayed. Not by schedule, but by interference. The moment he returned to the waiting zone, his system flickered. A new presence entered his detection radius. It wasn't spiritual pressure. It wasn't divine attention. It was familiar. System alert, resonance detected. Source unknown, origin partially linked to host's core system tree. Designation system fragment user. Another one? On the next platform, a young man stepped forward. Slender, dressed in radiant white, with a silver rune etched across his throat. The crowd buzzed. That's Chen, the spirit oracle of Evernight Temple. He doesn't use standard techniques. They say he talks to data ghosts. But Luo Chen didn't hear the rumors. He felt the presence. Raw. Broken. And too familiar. That rune. It's not from this world. As Chen looked over, their eyes met. For a moment, time paused. Then. System ping, passive trace engaged. Fragment tree detected, echo-type protocol, reversed access permission tier. Warning, he may recognize you. The match began without an announcement. They simply moved. Chen didn't rush. He raised his hand, fingers drawing in the air, coding shapes, not spells. Glyphs danced into being. And behind him, shadows began to form. Illusions? Clones? No. Echoes. Projections of past fighters. Dead geniuses. Tower phantoms. All perfectly reanimated to fight for him. Luo Chen didn't retreat. He stepped forward. You're using tower ghost data, he said calmly. That fragment, where did you get it? Chen smiled. It came to me in a dream. Or maybe a past life. But now that I see you, I think I know the real source. They clashed. Echoes surged. Luo Chen blurred through them, wraith form active, bypassing patterns, attacking not the summons, but the source code. Each echo he struck didn't vanish, it screamed. These are real souls. Jishin's smile cracked slightly. You hear them too? Suddenly, the system surged. Skill upgrade triggered, memory drift plus phantom kill soul refract / LV.1. Effect, deals double damage to soul constructed or fragmented enemies. Fragments of past lives may echo through the blow. One clean strike cut through 4 echoes and nearly destabilized Jishin's spiritual body. He staggered, coughing mist. Luo Chen stood over him. That fragment you're using, it's incomplete. And it's hurting you. Jishin's eyes widened. How do you know? Luo Chen turned away. Because I have the full version. Duel complete, victory, Luo Chen. System fragment interaction logged, memory path opening accelerated. As Jishin collapsed, a single word escaped his lips. Error. Luo Chen walked off the platform. But in the air above the arena, the light monument shuddered. And deep within the tower's dormant layers, something ancient stirred. Because 2 system users had clashed. And only one of them still had a name. Just before the 3rd round of matches, the sky over the proving grounds went dark. Not clouded. Not stormy. Just void. As if heaven itself blinked. A voice descended. Not from the tournament announcers. Not from the pavilion elders. But from the tower. Candidates deemed irregular have been identified. Judgment protocol engaged. All participants, prepare for realignment trial. The crowd screamed as golden light exploded from the monument above, forming a massive formation array that enveloped the entire floating continent. Then, everyone vanished. Luo Chen blinked. He stood alone in a gray world. No sky. No ground. Just shifting mist and fractured echoes. System notification, you have entered Heaven's Judgment Trial. Format, Mirror Realm Instancing. Objective: overcome the version of yourself that never suffered. The fog parted. Across from him stood another Luo Chen. Same face. Same frame. Same potential. But there was no hatred in his eyes. No grief. No scars. No desperation. He stood straight, clean. Perfect. And flawless. Who are you? Luo Chen asked. The other one smiled faintly. I'm you. If your life had gone right. No betrayal. No loss. No glitch. I followed the sex path. Cultivated with discipline. Trusted the system. Luo Chen's eyes narrowed. Then you're not me. They fought. Silence shattered as the two versions clashed with identical movements at first. Phantom kill versus phantom kill. Wraith form versus wraith form. But the difference quickly became clear. True Luo Chen had evolved through pain. Adapted through chaos. His movements bent the rules. While the mirror version obeyed them. Blades met. Techniques mirrored. But then, Luo Chen activated Ghost Circuit. The other tried to replicate it and failed. You don't have my system. You never needed it. And that's why he lost. One clean blow from Soul Refract shattered the mirror's core. The fake Luo Chen gasped, collapsing as if the world had drained from him. His final words echoed softly. I wonder who would have been stronger if we both lived free. The mist vanished. Light returned. The arena reappeared one by one, participants fell back into place. Some unconscious. Some broken. Some missing. The voice returned. Judgment complete. Candidate Luo Chen, status, passed. Irregularity confirmed. Monitoring escalated. System trait gained, anomaly mirror breaker. Effect: resistance to spiritual illusions, mental clones, and fate projections increased by 70%. As Luo Chen stood once more beneath the heavens, hundreds of eyes watched him. No one cheered. No one mocked. Only silence remained. Because they had all seen themselves. And most had broken. But Luo Chen? He walked forward. As if the judgment was already part of his path. After the heavens judgment trial, the world didn't feel the same. Not to Luo Chen. And not to the one watching him. Later that night, when others slept or healed, Luo Chen found himself pulled not by the system, not by the tower, but by something deeper. A resonance inside his core. It dragged him beyond the edge of the proving grounds, into the in-between. There, in a void wrapped in time distortion, a new figure waited. Another Luo Chen. But unlike the Mirror Realm clone, this one was different. Older. Worn. Eyes dull with despair. And dangerous. He stood barefoot, shirt torn, holding no weapons, but leaking pressure so dense the space around him distorted. Luo Chen narrowed his eyes. You're not a memory. The other version laughed. No. I'm what you'll become if you lose everything. Again. I'm the Luo Chen who never got back up. System protocol breach, self-confrontation node triggered. Timeline fragment conflict detected. Warning, host is facing a future collapse variant. This wasn't a test. It was a fight. And this Luo Chen fought like a man with nothing to lose. They clashed instantly. No words. No hesitation. Broken Luo Chen used corrupted forms of Luo Chen's own skills. Phantom kill, but unstable. Wraith form, but seething with chaotic spirit. Ghost circuit, but reversed, draining life to increase speed. Every blow came with guilt. Every strike was laced with bitterness. And for the first time, Luo Chen struggled. Not because he was weaker. But because this version of him wanted to die. And take him with him. You'll fail, broken Luo Chen whispered. They'll betray you again. The system will crash. The tower will consume you. It always ends the same. Luo Chen bled. His hand trembled. But then, he activated the memory drift protocol. Visions flooded in. Moments of pain. Of choosing to fight. Of choosing not to break. He wasn't the strongest. But he endured. He had chosen to live forward, even when backward was easier. He struck with everything. Soul refract slash. But not to kill. To cleanse. To cut away the fear. The broken version screamed, then dissolved into fragments of light, leaving behind only a whisper. Then change it. Timeline conflict resolved. Trait acquired, self-defiance. Effect, once per battle, automatically recover from spiritual collapse when facing fate-type opponents. Progress, Shadow Core 98%. Luo Chen stood alone once more. Not whole. Not perfect. But real. And when he looked up, a door appeared in the void. The entrance to floor 2 of the tower. Even though he wasn't inside the tower anymore. You're opening early, Luo Chen muttered. Good. Because he was done being tested. Now. It was his turn to climb on his terms. The door stood in the void, ancient, cracked, pulsing with light not from this world. But it wasn't supposed to open here. Not in the middle of a tournament. Not outside the tower. Yet it waited for Luo Chen alone. System notification, external climb initiated, tower protocol bypassed. Requirement met, self-defiance plus mirror breaker plus system fragment integration. Tower floor 2, realm of echoing wounds, access granted, solo mode. They said the tower only opens when it calls you. But now, I'm the one calling it. Luo Chen stepped through. Light swallowed him. And when he emerged, he wasn't in a structured trial room or monster-infested ruin. He stood in a field of broken mirrors. Stylus. Endless. Each shard reflected a piece of his past. His betrayals. His regrets. The faces of the dead. And the faces of those he'd never saved. Floor 2 modifier, realm of echoing wounds. Theme, emotional scars manifest as combat challenges. Boss class entities, wounds made flesh. As he walked, shadow figures formed from the mirror shards. One took the shape of his father, silent, judging. Another became his childhood friend, the one who turned him in. A third, the girl who smiled at him, before stabbing his back. They didn't speak. They attacked. Each strike wasn't just spirit power. It was guilt. But Luo Chen didn't flinch. Not anymore. Passive activated, self-defiance. New trait triggered, Echo Burn, emotional illusions now fuel attack speed by 3% per entity confronted. He cut them down, one by one. Not in rage. But in acknowledgement. You are part of me. But you don't define me. Deeper into the floor, the terrain changed. The mirrors gave way to reflections of the future. One showed him crowned in gold, worshipped, feared. Another showed him dead in a pit, forgotten. A third glitched wildly, showing infinite versions of himself. Some monsters. Some gods. Some empty. Final chamber unlocked, heart of floor 2. Inside waited a single being. Faceless. But wearing Luo Chen's own voice. You've defied death, pain, fate, even heaven. But can you defy what you might become? They fought. And this time, Luo Chen didn't dodge the wounds. He let them hit. Let the floor see he could hurt. And still stand. Final blow. One clean strike. The mirror being shattered. Floor 2 fell silent. Tower floor 2, cleared, solo run protocol recognized. Reward, Phantom Core Advancement 100%. New system title, Floorbreaker. Special unlock, Shadow Mount Ritual, incomplete egg detected in inventory. A light flickered in Luo Chen's ring. The beast he spared earlier, small, forgotten, shivered. And awakened. When he returned to the proving grounds, no time had passed. But everything had changed. Because now, he didn't need the tower's permission. He had the key. Luo Chen had cleared floor 2 once alone, unrecorded, unwatched. But now he stood before it again. This time, not in a dream space. Not in a glitch. But at the tower's true gate. Officially. Openly. The tower trembled as it recognized him. Warning, irregular host detected at registered gate. Autocorrection engaged. Floor 2 difficulty adjusted, echoing wounds, ascended variant. The door opened into darkness. He stepped in. And the tower unleashed everything it had withheld. The world inside was a storm of shattered timelines. Thousands of mirrors spun through the air, reflecting not just memories, but emotions turned hostile. First wave. A mirror shard glowed red, burning guilt. It took the form of the girl who betrayed him. But this time, she was crying as she stabbed him. If you had been stronger, I wouldn't have needed to. He didn't dodge the blade. He let it hit, then broke her illusion with a pulse of the ghost circuit core. I don't forgive you, he said. But I forgive myself. Second wave. A reflection of his past self, weak, begging, crawling through mud after being crippled. This one fought back. Literally. You abandoned me, it screamed. Luo Chen clenched his jaw. No. I carried you. He shattered it with a phantom-infused palm. Trait acquired, emotional overdrive, all stats increase 10% when facing fear-type or memory-based enemies. But the deeper he went, the stranger it got. Because the mirrors weren't just reflecting him. They began reflecting possibilities. Luo Chen wearing the crown of the Divine Emperor. Luo Chen leading an army of tower-born errors. Luo Chen erased from every reality. He fought them all. And with every reflection he shattered, the tower trembled harder. Alert, core floor stability at 67%. Glitched progression recognized. Error detected, host is accessing stages not yet written. A voice echoed through the floor. Not from the tower. Not from the system. But from somewhere older. You weren't supposed to come this far. You were meant to break. Not bend. Luo Chen stopped walking. His shadow moved differently. And out of it stepped a beast, four-legged, silver-eyed, scaled with obsidian smoke. The mount he once spared. Now fully awakened. Shadow mount acquired, ash scale. Species, bound error beast. Loyalty, 100%, origin synced with host. Ash scale roared. The mirrors cracked around him. Together, they climbed the final platform of floor 2. Waiting at the top was a throne. Empty. Until it wasn't. Because from the cracks in the tower itself, a figure emerged. Wearing Luo Chen's face. But with eyes full of correction code. Welcome, Administrator. It's time to reset you. The figure on the throne rose. His face was Luo Chen's. But too perfect. No scars. No history. No weight in his gaze. Just cold precision and lines of system code running through his irises. Designation, Admin Class Clone Authority Node, Correction Enforcer. Objective, force synchronization of host's path with original tower design. You are not Luo Chen, the clone said. You are a fork. A corrupted thread. You must be trimmed. Luo Chen didn't answer. Because something inside him was breaking. Not from fear. But from mutation. His system flared wildly. Code split across his vision. System tree detected, core structure no longer stable. Cause, too many fused traits from divergent timelines. Status, skill tree branching uncontrollably. Icons began rearranging in his UI. Skills started merging on their own. Descriptions glitched. Phantom kill plus ghost circuit slash. Shadow render deals damage in 2 timelines simultaneously. May distort causality. Wraithform plus soul refract. Phantom bloom gain invincibility for 1.2 seconds while shifting. Leaves behind a ghost that retaliates. Passive fusion triggered. Mirror breaker plus memory drift plus echo burn. Anomaly path, you gain power the more wrong you become. It's changing me faster than I can learn it, Chen muttered. Ash Scale growled behind him, reacting to the instability. The clone stepped down. You can't handle what you've become. Your tree is collapsing. Surrender, let the tower reforge you into balance. But Chen laughed. His voice low, frayed, shaking, but alive. I didn't climb this far to be balanced. I climbed to be free. Skill tree stabilizing. New path unlocked, glitch origin technique tree. Type, forbidden / self-created / administrator level conflict. He charged. Shadow render activated mid-step, and his clone blinked. Only to feel a wound appear before the strike landed. Causal bleed, the clone gasped. Impossible. Chen struck again. Then vanished with phantom bloom reappearing behind his opponent's code field. Slashes phased through shields. His ghost retaliated with old memories, rage, grief, betrayal, turned into force. The clone fought back. Used administrator level sealing, freeze commands, code patches. But Chen broke them all. Because his tree wasn't unstable anymore. It was evolving beyond structure. With one final movement, Chen activated all fusions at once. The tower howled. The clone disintegrated, unable to rewrite a story that no longer followed a script. Victory, Tower Floor 2 complete, Ascended variant. Skill tree status, unstable stable. New title, The Pathless One. As the tower quieted, Chen stood panting. Burning with energy he couldn't fully control. But smiling. Because now, the system couldn't define him. The tower couldn't limit him. Even fate had no say. The throne room faded. The tower recalibrated. But something stayed behind. Not code. Not memory. A presence. As Chen stood over the remnants of the admin class clone, a faint pulse echoed from beneath the shattered platform. Ash Scale snarled, lowering its head toward the cracked floor. A fragment pulsed with heat and hunger. Then it cracked open. Out crawled a beastling. Small. Starved. Half shadow, half scale. Eyes blind with data static. But the moment it sensed Chen's aura, it knelt. System alert, minor error, class lifeform detected. Status, Tower-born remnant identity? Initiate bond protocol? It followed me through the floor collapse, Chen realized. It was part of the failed boss summoning, but didn't attack. He knelt beside it. The creature didn't flinch. Even as its body trembled, unstable and half dissolved, it curled closer. Bond request detected. Ash Scale recognizes kin. Shadow Mount protocol syncing. Chen extended one finger. The creature nuzzled it, and in that moment, something clicked. Power surged between them. Not domination. Not control. But recognition. The system confirmed it. Follower bond formed, wisp, subspecies, error hatchling. Attributes, absorbs unstable data and redirects it to stabilize nearby terrain or owner. Growth potential? Linked to host system sync. Ash Scale moved beside the little one, lowering its head. For a moment, they weren't monsters or beasts. Just broken things finding a home. Chen stood again. 2 shadows behind him now. One mighty. One flickering. Both bound by his path. Trait gained, Path of the Forgotten. Effect: Towerborn, abandoned, or error class entities will instinctively align with your aura rather than resist. As he exited floor 2, the system glitched. The world outside should have continued where it left off. But instead, he stepped out 5 hours early. The others were still inside, fighting for their lives. And the observers above were watching the tower feeds, confused. Because Luo Chen's name had jumped past the current round. Some whispered. Some panicked. One pavilion elder clenched his fist. He didn't just pass the trial. He broke the tower's timeline. Luo Chen didn't look at them. He just turned to Ash Scale and Wisp. Let's keep climbing. They're not ready for floor 3. News spread faster than lightning. Luo Chen had cleared floor 2 early. Alone. Off record. And worse. He'd emerged with Towerborn followers. The tower feeds glitched. Records blurred. Rankings bent in ways no algorithm could explain. To those who watched from afar, the meaning was clear. He wasn't climbing. He was rewriting. In the skies above the continent, a ripple appeared. Then split wide. From the divine rift descended 6 golden spears, piercing the atmosphere like heavenly judgment. Each embedded itself in one of the sacred sect's domains. And one fell directly before the Azure Cloud sect. Inscribed on the shaft. Execute the error. System notification: Divine class protocol detected. You have been flagged by a heavenly authority. Designation: Unbound anomaly. Judgment level: Class Red, Divine execution authorized. Luo Chen stood on a cliff, watching the smoke from where the spear had landed. Ashscale growled low, tense. Even Wisp hissed softly, its tiny body flickering with instability. Then came the announcement. Broadcast across every tower-linked sect, immortal fortress, and outer region. By decree of the High Realms, the cultivator known as Luo Chen has been marked for divine elimination. Those who protect him defy the heavens. Those who slay him, ascend. Every greedy heart ignited. Mercenaries stirred. Rogue sects sharpened their blades. Tower factions began to move. But Luo Chen? He smiled. They finally noticed. Good. New trait: Divine target. Effect: Marked by heavenly authority. All divine path cultivators can sense your location. Bonus: all experience gained from defeating executioners is doubled. And there it was. A black mark on his system screen. Not a debuff. Not a bug. A brand. In the days that followed, the first assassin came. Draped in gold, wielding a sword shaped from sunfire. He didn't speak. Just appeared on the mountain trail. And struck. But Luo Chen didn't dodge. He stepped into the attack-activated phantom bloom, leaving behind a retaliating ghost. And shattered the man's core in one counter. His system pulsed. Divine class target eliminated. EXP gained X2. Trait fragment acquired, Radiant Bone Core. Wisp consumed the falling shards of divine essence. Ashscale absorbed the sunfire blade. Luo Chen? He simply kept walking. If they send gods, I'll kill gods. Night fell. But peace never came. Not for Luo Chen. Not anymore. He camped near the edge of a collapsed spiritual ley line where the world had once fed the tower's roots. Ashscale curled around him like a living wall. Wisp flickered softly beside the fire. And then he felt her. The spiritual signature. The subtle rhythm of her steps. The false calm in her breathing. He didn't look up when she arrived. Just said, "Took you long enough." "You knew I was coming?" "You always come back," Luo Chen replied. "Right after the world turns on me." She stepped forward. Dressed in white robes that shimmered with runes, sect envoy level gear. The same girl who betrayed him in his first life. The one who watched him bleed in the dungeon and walked away. Yenrua, he said. You haven't changed. Her smile faltered. You have. You weren't supposed to make it this far. She unsheathed her blade, but held it backward, not forward. Not to kill. To offer it. I came to ask for your help. System alert, high betrayal signature detected. Target Yenrua, former companion, past timeline affiliation, hostile. Warning, emotional fluctuation may affect skill clarity. Luo Chen stood. Walked past her. Looked over the edge of the shattered cliff. Help with what? Another trap? A fake alliance? She didn't answer. But her next words cracked the cold air. You're not the only one marked for death. They branded me, too. For failing to kill you. Luo Chen didn't respond. Because part of him wanted to believe her. And another part, the one that crawled through blood to climb the tower, knew better. I want to switch sides, she said. The heavens are wrong. But you're wronger. And that might be what we need. He turned. Met her eyes. Then. Ghost circuit activated silently, checking her pulse, blood rhythm, and microtremors. She wasn't lying. Not completely. System sync, past affection residue detected. Status, broken trust, reconstruction, denied. I don't forgive you, Luo Chen said. But I'll use you. If you betray me again, Wisp gets your soul. Wisp let out a surprisingly eager chirp, licking one of its shifting claws. Yenrua flinched, but nodded. Temporary alliance formed, Yenrua, shadow-tainted sect envoy. Status, watchlist, authority, none affinity, unknown. Ashscale huffed, clearly displeased. Luo Chen didn't care. Because war was coming. And sometimes? The best weapon was the one that had already stabbed you once. The cracks didn't appear in the sky. Or the ground. Or the tower. They appeared in Luo Chen's vision. A flicker. A delayed response. A notification that didn't close. Then. The world stuttered. System warning. Error code, loop SANC 000X. Process overflow. User exceeds narrative permissions. Reconstructing reality shell. Failed. It's starting, Luo Chen muttered. He stood atop a ruined sect spire, Yenrua nearby, her spiritual sense focused outward. Ashscale was restless. Wisp hovered silently, feeding on excess data particles bleeding from Luo Chen's skin. Because now. His system was bleeding. Icons began to shake. Skill names distorted. Descriptions changed every few seconds. Some even disappeared mid-use. Passive, soul refract/null. New skill generated? Tooltip, error, this ability should not exist. You're falling apart, Yenrua said softly. Or becoming something new, Luo Chen replied. Then the tower howled. Not metaphorically. Not spiritually. The tower itself let out a scream heard in every sect, across every realm. Because its anchor was unraveling. At that exact moment, across the continent. System users everywhere felt it. Some dropped to their knees as their skills flickered. Others had notifications crash mid-combat. A few vanished entirely. Back at the Golden Pavilion, the blindfolded envoy rose suddenly. The system's boundaries are collapsing. We didn't just mark an error. We created a root virus. System notice, skill tree unstable. Reassigning nodes to adaptive protocols. Congratulations! You are no longer bound by talent limitations. Penalty, core identity fading, prepare for memory erosion. Luo Chen staggered. His heartbeat stuttered. And for a split second, he forgot his own name. Then Wisp pressed its forehead to his. A pulse of stolen stability surged into him. The world realigned. His name returned. But now, The price was clear. Cost of freedom, sanity stability 67%. Next threshold, 50%, onset of personality drift imminent. Yen Ruo stared at him. You're not entirely human anymore. Luo Chen didn't deny it. He just looked to the tower horizon. The higher I climb, the less of me survives. But whatever's left, it's going to finish this. Because the tower had tried to correct him. He'd broken that. Now it would try to delete him. Let it try. The sky above the tower was no longer blue. Not storm gray. Not dusk red. It had become hollow. Like the world was a shell and something underneath had started to surface. Luo Chen stood before the gateway to floor 3. But this wasn't the same tower anymore. The stairs had twisted. The entry glyphs burned with divine code. A warning. A prison. And in the center floated a golden statue. Eyes blindfolded. Arms raised. But it wasn't made of stone. It was alive. Watching. Waiting. Yen Ruo hesitated. What is that? Luo Chen's system answered. Entity identified, observer class construct, origin, false divinity protocol. Codename, the overseer authority level, tower kernel defense. Function, stabilize timeline. Terminate anomalies. Impersonate authority. A false god, Luo Chen said. The tower's final failsafe. A puppet built to look divine, but created by code. The overseer spoke. Its voice was thousands layered into one. You were a variable. Now you are a threat. You will kneel before protocol. Or perish beneath correction. The world locked. Time froze. Luo Chen didn't move. Because he didn't have to. Warning, divine field activated. All skills suppressed. Movement locked. Thoughts isolated. The perfect seal. One that froze even cause and effect. But Luo Chen smirked. Nice trick. He raised his hand without raising it. Anomaly protocol active, reality drift exceeded 60%. Condition, immune to causal lockdowns below root level decree. And then, he moved. Freely. Inside a space where nothing was supposed to move. And punched the overseer in the face. The false god reeled back, cracks forming in its blindfold. Its voice distorted. That should not be possible. That's the point, Luo Chen said coldly. I'm not supposed to be here. But I am. Ash scale roared from below the tower. Wisp launched upward, shredding through support protocols like candy. And Luo Chen? He activated every unstable skill at once. Shadow Render. Echo Pulse. Phantom Bloom. Soul Shatter Clone. All mixed into one chaotic spiral of glitch, ghost, and gore. He fought the overseer with everything. And it couldn't adapt fast enough. The false god tried to rewrite him. Tried to summon divine chains. Tried to collapse the world around him. But Luo Chen was already outside the script. And with one final blow, he shattered the overseer's core. The divine blindfold turned to dust. The statue fell. And the tower's walls shivered. Because something sacred had been killed. Alert, tower kernel breach, protocol overseer destroyed. Warning, all higher floors now unsealed prematurely. Judgment authority revoked, control falling to anomaly class. Yen Ruo stared at the falling light. You just killed a god. No, Luo Chen said. I killed a lie. The false god was dead. The tower, silent. And yet, Luo Chen felt something cracking inside him. Not physically. Not spiritually. But in the roots of his identity. It began with a whisper. Then a pulse. Then a scream that echoed across every thought he had ever stored away. System alert, regression memory integrity damaged. Cause, exposure to forbidden core protocols plus kernel override conflict. Status, multiple timelines attempting to converge. He staggered. Reality twisted. One moment, he stood beside Ashscale and Yenrua. The next, he was alone in the old dungeon again. Wounded. Helpless. Betrayed. This isn't real, he muttered. But the pain was. He felt the blade in his back. The same one from his first death. And then, he was in the ceremony again. A failure. Laughed at. Cast aside. Then, the tower entry. Then, floor 1. Then. None of them. Warning, regression fracture reached 42%. You are beginning to forget which reality was yours. He clenched his fists. But when he looked at his hands, one was the hand of a child. The other was bone-white and clawed. His voice trembled. Who am I becoming? Suddenly, Wisp launched onto his chest. Clawed into him. Eyes pulsing. And in that moment, Luo Chen saw it. Wisp wasn't just absorbing glitches. It was anchoring him. The system flared. Follower Wisp has initiated memory stabilization link. Trait acquired, self-reassertion. Effect, when exposed to timeline collapse, may restore dominant identity at cost of spiritual recoil. Pain shot through him like lightning. But his form realigned. His eyes cleared. He was Luo Chen. The anomaly. The climber. The one who refused fate. Yenrua had drawn her blade, watching him cautiously. You disappeared for 3 seconds. But your aura went from mortal to divine and back again. Luo Chen stood, breathing heavily. The tower's trying to pull me back. To overwrite everything. But now I know the truth. He turned to the next set of stairs, now fully visible. The words engraved on the gate no longer matched any known cultivation language. They glowed in tower script. Code script. Anomaly script. And as they pulsed, he read them. Error made flesh. Climb and collapse. Or kneel and restart. Luo Chen smiled. We're past restarting. He stood before the gate to floor 4. Not stone. Not steel. But code, woven into symbols the world had no right to understand. They bent when he looked at them. Whispered when he passed. And opened when he didn't knock. Because the tower no longer held him. It only reacted to him. System alert, host identity no longer valid. You have exceeded parameters for all known cultivator classes. New state assigned, anomaly type empty set. Label, the error. Luo Chen stepped into the final floor. The air was thick, not with pressure, but with narrative weight. It felt like walking into a story that hated him. A legend that rejected its main character. Every wall pulsed with judgment. But he kept walking. Yenrua followed, eyes cautious, aura unstable. Ashscale lumbered at his side, larger now, its body glowing with data scars. Wisp rode Luo Chen's shoulder, flickering with every pulse of corruption that passed through his soul. At the center of the floor waited the core mirror. A massive construct reflecting not the world, but Luo Chen himself. His past. His present. His failed futures. His twisted possibilities. And then it spoke. With his voice. You weren't chosen. You weren't blessed. You weren't even supposed to live. The mirror shimmered, and hundreds of versions of him appeared. One broken. One divine. One screaming. One kneeling. One dead. All asking the same question. Why you? Luo Chen raised his hand. It didn't glow with power. It just shook from holding on so long. Then, he answered. Because no one else did. Because I died a coward once. And I refuse to do it again. System trait unlocked, error core, identity complete. Effect, immune to all rewrite, reset, or system-level judgment protocols. Title acquired, I am the error. The mirror shattered. The floor groaned. And from the pieces, a throne rose. Not for a king. Not for a god. But for the one thing the tower couldn't understand. A soul that chose to be wrong and kept walking anyway. I didn't climb for power. I climbed because you told me I couldn't. The tower responded. It began collapsing. Not as punishment, but because its rules no longer worked. The tower was crumbling. Not physically. Not visibly. But at its core, the rules, the loops, the system scripts were breaking. Every command tried to contain him. Every law tried to reject him. And yet, Chen stood. He reached the top of the highest floor. No enemies. No tests. Just the override console. Not built of stone or chi. But light. Strings. Code etched into the bones of the world. The true administrator node of the tower. Access level, unauthorized. Override key required. But the moment Chen placed his hand on the console, the entire system froze. Then, it accepted him. Recognition complete, host identity, empty set. Role, the error. Authority, beyond correction. Override option available. A prompt appeared before him. Simple. Terrifying. Would you like to rewrite reality? Yen Rua's voice trembled behind him. If you say yes, you won't be human anymore. You'll be something else. Something outside of everything. Chen looked down at his reflection in the console. He saw all of it. The dungeon. The betrayal. The tower. The fights. The regret. The power. The price. He exhaled. I was never meant to be human again. But I'll choose what I become. And then he spoke. One word. Override. The tower shook. No, the world did. He didn't just break the rules. He replaced them. The scripts began to vanish. Talents rebalanced. Divine bloodlines lost their glow. Sects felt their privileges evaporate. The heavens went silent. Because the new law wasn't a code. It wasn't a technique. It was a truth. Climb not to obey. Climb to defy. Override successful. New tower law written. System reset blocked permanently. Designation, Chen, the one who refused. Ash scale knelt before him. Wisp curled into a cocoon of light, transforming. And Yen Rua? She lowered her blade and bowed. Not to a god. Not to a ruler. But to a man who rewrote fate with his own hands. No more loops, Chen whispered. No more resets. No more chains. The sky opened. Not to judgment. But to freedom. Years passed. Not many. Just enough for the world to feel different. No divine edicts fell from the skies. No sect dictated the fate of mortals. No child was ever told, you don't have talent, so give up. The tower remained. But it was no longer a monument of restriction. It became something else. A symbol. A path. A challenge, not a cage. At its summit, the throne once used to judge all climbers sat empty. Because the one who climbed the highest never sat. He stood at the peak. Back to the world. Eyes forward. Still searching. Still walking. Chen no longer carried a system in the traditional sense. He was the system. Not the overseer. Not a god. Not even a ruler. just the origin of a new logic. If you can't find your path, make one. If the heavens deny you, tear them down. If fate calls you an error, be the error. And win. Legends whispered about the man who broke the tower. Some said he ascended to a plane beyond immortals. Others claimed he walks between timelines, rescuing versions of himself who never had the chance. But none could find him. Because he no longer existed in a single place. He existed in all choices made against fate. And those he left behind? Ashscale, once a beast of smoke and rage, now flew freely across planes, guarding the borderlands between realms. Wisp, reborn from chaos into a being of pure stabilization, became the anchor for wandering souls who strayed from their paths. Yen Ruo. She stayed behind. Not as a follower, but as the first human to teach the next generation of climbers. The tower gives you floors, but you decide how far you rise. The world changed. Not all at once, but floor by floor. Step by step. Choice by stubborn, painful, free choice. And at the heart of that freedom was a single name, etched where the old divine laws used to be, where the judgment scripts once ruled. It simply read, Luo Chen, the one who refused.